everybody, and welcome back to this podcast. Today, this visual podcast. Today, I'm joined by my good friend Vicky Campos, a first-generation Mexican-American graduate of the University of Laverne. They graduated in 2015 with a BA in music. During their time at the university, the focus was on American art songs. Not only have they been able to study art and music and expression at the university, they're an artist themselves, and they have at least years now of working in the arts outside of the university. And I'm really happy to have my friend here with me to answer a couple questions relating to art, culture, and how all that stuff interacts with oppression and how it can combat it. So thanks for being here, Vicky.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. How do you think culture and art relate to each other? And then if you wouldn't mind sharing how you think your culture relates to your art.
So to me, culture is essentially anything that you do with your community. So that same thing of your emotions and your ego being together. It's like, what did your community, the people around you, the nature around you, everything, what went into that affected you? What did you put out into it? How did all those things combine together to create whatever experience you had emotionally? And then that's culture, like you all went through this together.
Yeah.
It's not.
Your job is to create that access,
Mm-hmm.
which is super awesome. That's cool.
Because like if you think about the Inland Empire, there's so many places where people are creating things and doing stuff together, and you don't realize, that's what's happening. Like
Yeah.
public parks where people just get together, like that's art. That's people creating a community, whether or not they realize it. And I feel like we restrict it all to like, well, this needs to happen in a theater because this, like, it doesn't have to happen there.
Mm.
But because of that mentality, we need to make sure that, well, then this needs to be available to everyone. We can't just like make sure that this theater is an exclusive space. Like everyone can come in and do their own thing there and then come see what their friends are doing. Let the people do it in a certain place, that sucks. But for those of us that are in the position to create these spaces and allow people to be there, we have to be accommodating for everyone.
Right. Ask it. How does artistic expression affect oppression? That right. How does artistic expression affect oppression and power dynamics in relationship to living an immigrant experience in this country?
Well, the thing that I thought of a lot, like with my education, a lot of it is learning how to conform into how certain people create art because their culture is different than mine. So it's like, well, you have to learn the Western way of doing things. And it's about fighting that essentially because they're trying to bring you down, trying to say like, well, the way you did music over here, it's not right. That's not how we tune our instruments. That's not how you pronounce these words. That's not how this happens. And it's all valid. Like, of course, you're doing it this way, so obviously you have to say words this way. We do need our instruments to be tuned this way. But that doesn't make the way I learned any less valid, any less important. Like, right now I'm seeing a lot of, like, a revival of, like, young Mexican Americans, Latin Americans coming out and fighting out, like, hey, the music of my ancestors was fucking dope. And why aren't we doing this again? Like, Cucuru Cucu Paloma, that's the jam. Let's do it again. Let's do it this way. We have these instruments now, and I know how to do this. So let's bring it back because that's what my people wanted. We're supposed to do it the same way over and over again. We're supposed to carry this on and do more with it.
Cool. Do you think that gives this younger generation a sense of power? A sense of, like, ownership to, to their roots?
I think so because a lot of like the folk music that like I listened to, I didn't think I had access to it because like my parents didn't give it to me essentially, Every generation like loses stuff here and there because the traditions are different focuses. Especially as an immigrant, you leave your country that you came from and you carry what you can. And sometimes not all the art's gonna make it because that's not essential. That's not gonna feed you or your body. It may feed your mind, but at the end of the day, your mind is not what's important. You're just trying to keep breathing, keep going. So that stuff doesn't always make it through. And especially when you're like an immigrant in a space where, you know, not everyone looks like you, not everyone listens to the same stuff that your family's doing, you know, they don't participate in the same activities. To see that there is a community that's still thriving and still doing what like people did hundreds of years ago, it matters because it shows that you have lasting power. It's not just like a passing phase or like this fun commodity that someone else found out about. Like, no, it's real. And people are doing it. It's yours. You have a claim to this.
I mean, it's been happening forever. It's not new.
It's not new at all.
But it's exciting to talk about it.
And it's having these revivals all the time, and that's what counts. It's not so much that it's new, but that, you know, we're still doing it. We're not just letting it die off and forgetting about the fact that we are different. We come from different places. That doesn't keep us from existing in the normal spaces of everyone else. It just means that there's something unique to us that we need to keep feeding and growing. Well, I think it's important to take ownership in these things. It kind of dismantles that idea that what's more popular gets all the power in this. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter that something is more popular somewhere. All the kids are doing this. It's like, no, this is still cool, and your people are doing it, even though it's a small group of your people's.
Right.
The fact that they're doing it all is important.
Super empowering, and it sounds like that's been the case.
Yeah, because essentially, I think like when you can reach the art point, it means like you fed your family, you have a place to live, you have shelter. You know, like we leave art as the very last thing, as
the art point.
Yeah, the art point. Like you're striving when you're trying to do all these things, but once you get to the art, you're thriving. Like you figured everything else out. But I think we need to like realize like no, art comes from struggle sometimes. Like all the stuff that you did, that's you creating, that's you emoting and like putting yourself into something that's still an art in its way.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Vicky. These insights have been super exciting, super relevant, all of it. We at this podcast appreciate you sharing your truths and stuff.
Awesome, it was great sharing it.
Thanks, Vicky.
Cut!